Since Trump first took office, over 1.2 million people have been deported. And in his second term, that number is still rising. But here's what most Americans don't know. The same company trusted by the Pentagon to run battlefield intelligence is now helping ICE track, profile, and deport immigrants with military-grade precision. That company? Palantir, the CIA-backed tech giant quietly fueling America's deportation machine. When Donald Trump returned to office in 2025, many expected a familiar playbook: wall rhetoric, tough talk, and high-profile raids. But this time, something had changed. Behind the scenes, immigration enforcement wasn't just louder, it was sharper, faster, and far more precise. At the center of that shift was software, not built by ICE, not even by the government, but by Palantir, a private tech company more commonly associated with military intelligence and battlefield analytics. The same platform used to hunt terrorists overseas was now being used to track undocumented immigrants across U.S. cities and states. That system is called Immigration OS, and it runs on Palantir's Gotham platform, a tool originally developed in the years after 9/11 to help the U.S. government fuse intelligence from dozens of disconnected sources. What began as a counterterrorism project quickly evolved into a cornerstone of modern surveillance. Today, Immigration OS integrates over 30 government databases, from the FBI and CBP to local DMV systems and USCIS case files. It links visa records with arrest histories, license plates with housing addresses, and biometric data with social networks. The result: a constantly updating digital profile of individuals ICE may want to detain, searchable, sortable, and actionable. ICE's Homeland Security Investigations Unit uses it daily. With network mapping features originally designed for insurgent cells, agents can visualize connections between people, places, and events, making it easier than ever to locate targets, build cases, and coordinate removals. This isn't science fiction. It's real software. Funded with taxpayer money, and quietly woven into the daily machinery of immigration enforcement, transforming what used to be manpower-driven work into something far more automated and invisible. When the Trump administration returned to the White House in 2025, it didn't just inherit Gotham's legacy, it supercharged it. In July, Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, injecting over $165 billion into DHS, with billions earmarked specifically for surveillance, detention, and digital enforcement at the southern border. Nestled deep in that budget, a $30 million contract for Immigration OS. Trump's executive orders reclassified unauthorized immigration as a national security issue, allowing ICE to act with broader authority under the banner of counterterrorism. One of his earliest moves was to revive and expand secure communities, a controversial Obama-era program that had been scaled back. Now, with Palantir's software, local police databases, jail rosters, and even fingerprint submissions automatically synced to Immigration OS in real time. This wasn't theory. It was software executing policy. More than 30 databases now fed the system: DMV records, Medicaid claims, USCIS biometrics, CBP watch lists, and FBI arrest logs. Even temporary protections like DACA or CHNV parole were flagged the moment a person's status expired. ICE's HSI teams used this data to deploy field agents with algorithmic targeting. Deportations became a matter of scheduling. A 2-month pilot in July also granted ICE access to Medicaid data, allowing the agency to cross-check 80 million people's health records for enforcement triggers. Meanwhile, protests erupted in New York and Palo Alto, with critics decrying Palantir's system as a digital deportation machine funded by Trump's massive taxpayer bailouts. The controversy deepened when it was revealed that former Trump advisor Stephen Miller, one of the architects of his immigration policy, held personal stock in Palantir, raising serious ethical questions about profit motives embedded in government surveillance infrastructure. By late summer, the result was clear. Immigration OS wasn't just a tool, it was the backbone of Trump's deportation surge. Policy directives, massive funding, and integrated data pipelines turned intelligence infrastructure into operational enforcement. By 2025, ICE agents no longer needed to rely on paperwork, tip lines, or slow databases. With Immigration OS, everything they needed, risk scores, travel histories, known associates, was integrated into one seamless taxpayer-funded platform. At the core is visual link analysis. Originally built for counterinsurgency missions, the software now maps out real-world social networks inside the U.S. It draws lines between undocumented immigrants, visa holders, legal residents, and even citizens based on shared addresses, job sites, vehicle registrations, and housing histories. These networks don't just show who someone is, but who they're connected to. Those connections feed into predictive risk scoring. The system constantly monitors travel anomalies, visa overstays, prior encounters, and even proximity to flagged people or locations. Someone who once shared a ride with a deported individual might suddenly appear in a high-risk cluster. There doesn't need to be a charge, just a pattern. And then comes the part where policy meets hardware. Through Palantir's Falcon mobile interface, ICE field agents access full case files instantly. The platform lets them initiate detainment right from their phones, triggering warrants, dispatches, and jail coordination with a few taps. It's streamlined, automated, and fully mobile. The scale behind it is staggering. Immigration OS alone cost taxpayers $30 million, but it's part of a broader Palantir-ICE partnership that has pulled in nearly $90 million in federal contracts over the last few years. These tools aren't just software, they're infrastructure. Quiet, permanent infrastructure built not by DHS, but by a private company with Pentagon roots and profit margins tied to enforcement. What used to take a task force now takes a tablet and a contract. This is how deportation became data-driven. As Immigration OS rolled out, critics quickly raised concerns. Leading civil liberties groups like the ACLU and community advocates such as Magente have filed lawsuits demanding transparency, challenging the system's internal logic and opaque influence on ICE raids and deportations. They argue that the company and the government are using a secretive black box to decide who gets detained, with no public oversight or clear accountability. No civilian audit mechanism exists. DHS and ICE are not required to explain how Immigration OS assigns risk scores, why certain targets are flagged, or where the system errs. In fact, no law currently mandates disclosure of algorithmic processes or outcomes, even when lives and livelihoods hang in the balance. That means people affected by deportation have no way to discover if they were targeted due to flawed coding, biased data, or mistaken identity. Worse still, the technology builds its own feedback loop. Once someone is flagged, perhaps for a minor irregularity, they're entered into the system, added to watch lists, and displayed in network links. That record influences future risk scores and alerts, making them more likely to be targeted again. Over time, Immigration OS can reinforce patterns that mirror bias. Minor alerts morph into high-risk designations, not because of wrongdoing, but because the system has already flagged them before. This isn't idle speculation. The $30 million initial contract for Immigration OS is only a slice of Palantir's nearly $90 million revenue from ICE and DHS. Financial incentives are deeply baked into the system. The more targets it identifies, the more reliable and indispensable the software seems, ensuring continued investment and expansion. Without external checks, Immigration OS operates unchecked. No independent audit, no court oversight, no path to challenge a high-risk score. A person could remain trapped in the system based on flawed data, without ever knowing why. In short, a powerful private tech platform now guides the most sensitive functions of immigration enforcement. Built on taxpayer dollars, driven by private profit motives, and shielded from meaningful oversight, Immigration OS risks transforming one momentary flag into a lifetime of scrutiny. Immigration OS has quietly shaped U.S. immigration enforcement for nearly a decade, and yet it's never been the subject of a standalone public debate in Congress. There are no hearings, no bipartisan investigations, and no amendments in the record demanding ethical review. It operates under the broader DHS and ICE budgets, but remains invisible, a controversial pillar of enforcement functioning without democratic scrutiny. That invisibility is no accident. Palantir retains full control over the proprietary code and infrastructure underpinning Immigration OS. Government agencies rely on Palantir not just for software installations, but also for system updates, maintenance, and troubleshooting. ICE agents use the tools, but they can't inspect or modify the underlying algorithms. Congress and watchdogs can't audit the code, challenge its assumptions, or demand revisions. The technology belongs only to its private creator, yet the most profound impact might be the subtle shift in how immigration policy is implemented and enforced. No longer is enforcement solely a matter of legal thresholds, human discretion, or political debate. It's increasingly beholden to what Palantir's recommendation engines label as high priority. These algorithmic scores echo through DHS directives, influencing who gets an initial detainer filed, which neighborhoods are patrolled, and even how deportation proceedings are prioritized. Consider how these algorithms are funded and expanded. That original $30 million Immigration OS contract has grown into a nearly $90 million revenue stream, tied directly to ICE activity and system usage. Every new deployment, every added data set, from healthcare to DMV, adds incentive for Palantir to optimize for volume and precision. And every successful deportation validated by algorithmic analysis becomes a selling point for broader adoption. In effect, a private corporation now plays a central role in shaping public immigration policy. Its infrastructure governs not just how data is organized, but how political decisions manifest in streets and borders. And these decisions, who to surveil, who to detain, are not debated in public forums. They happen behind closed doors, encoded in software. By letting recommendation engines guide operations, enforcement shifts from elected officials deciding on policy to a private code base influencing the lives of millions. That's no longer governance, it's automation.